from the Met Office. So plenty of blustery showers continuing through the rest of today, but we should see some clear spells overnight, and with some northerly winds on the way, it will be turning colder as we head in towards the new working week. This area of low pressure up to the north of the UK pushes away towards Scandinavia, leaving us northerly winds across all of the UK as we head through Monday. But back to Sunday evening, plenty of showers around. This band of showers across central areas pushes its way eastwards, turning particularly heavy over any high ground. But across southern areas, there should be some clear spells around between those showers, but it will still be quite a mild night compared to what we've seen recently. Temperatures in the south around 6, 7, perhaps 8 degrees, although with some northerly winds across parts of Scotland turning chillier here, perhaps a frost to start the day in places. For northern areas, it will be quite a cloudy start to the day on Monday. Across parts of Scotland, those showers that we see overnight turning increasingly to sleet and snow, particularly over the hills, so definitely feeling a bit of a chillier start here. Across Northern Ireland, we will still see some showers around through the morning, but these likely to be falling as rain. The further south you are, perhaps some sunshine to start the day. Across northern parts of England, quite a cloudy and damp start to the day, but for Wales, southern eastern parts of England, perhaps a bit of a brighter start for many of us. Plenty of sunshine as we head through the morning. That band of showers across northern parts of England continues to sink its way southwards, bringing some quite brisk northerly winds across the eastern coast, so really feeling quite chilly here. But the further west you are, there should be some sunshine as we head through the afternoon. Plenty of blue skies around, even if we do see 1 or 2 showers, and the showers continuing to fall as sleet and snow across Scotland, and widely a much cooler day compared to the weekend. Temperatures generally closer to average, around 10 or 11 in the south and only 5 or 6 further north. Those brisk northerly winds continuing across eastern coast as we head through Monday evening, but for many of us it will be turning dry with plenty of clear spells, so that will lead to quite a chilly start on Tuesday, but wet weather is on the way through Tuesday afternoon and into Wednesday, and those temperatures slowly increasing as we head towards the second half of the week.
We'll see a cold snap, which will quickly develop into a warm front. Boxed boiler.
You could be joining the Great British Giveaway list of winners with your chance to grab a fantastic £50,000 in tax-free cash. We've made loads of winners this year, and you could be our next.
Hi, I'm Angela from Wigan, and I won £30,000 with the Great British Giveaway. It happens to people like me.
For your chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Go to gbnews.com/shop now and take advantage of our biggest ever Black Friday sale with 25% off all items across our store and free shipping on orders worth £60 or more. There's never been a better time to grab something for the GB News fan in your life. From our signature clothing to drinkware, gifts, accessories and much, much more, you'll find the perfect present this festive season. Use the code BLACKFRIDAY25 on checkout at gbnews.com/shop for our best ever Black Friday deals.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mark Dolan tonight is your weekend dose of news, debate and entertainment.
This sounds like a wild conspiracy theory.
Don't miss My Big Opinion, Mark Meets and My Take at 10.
Democracy is a funny old thing.
And we don't do boring, not on my watch. I just won't have it.
Let's go and get another glass of that bubbly. You've earned it.
That's Mark Dolan tonight, Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 11, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, good afternoon. It's 1 o'clock on Sunday, the 1st December, and it's beginning to feel a lot like Christmas, isn't it? We've got the trees up in the studio. They're lovely. It's the 1st of December, and are you ready? This is the big question of the day. Actually, this is the weekend on GBNews. Thanks for joining me. Now, OK, we have to talk about some serious stuff as well, don't we? A bitter blow for 10 million pensioners. The Work and Pensions Secretary, who axed winter fuel payments for pensioners, is branded a hypocrite after it was revealed her heating bill is funded by, oh yeah, the taxpayer. Liz Kendall claimed just under £4,000 for her second home, as an estimated 100,000 pensioners will be forced into poverty.
I describe this as the worst time in my life. My daughter, she was sexually assaulted whilst out with friends.
And GB News' Gloria De Piero sat down with Labour MP Joe White, who opened up about how being in the public eye can affect every aspect of your life, as her middle daughter was victim of a sexual assault. Then, oh yeah, fresh claims emerge. The BBC failed to act on Gregg Wallace's alleged misconduct, with some claims dating back more than 16 years ago. With TV presenter, that's her there, Kirsty Allsop, being the latest to accuse Gregg of making inappropriate comments to her when they worked together. And hallelujah, as we're now officially in the Christmas season, the 1st of December, it's also my birthday season, by the way, just saying, it's time to spread some Yuletide cheer. We'll be joined by one of Santa's favourite little helpers for a lesson in festive magic. I'm Dawn Neeson, and this is The Weekend. Thank you for joining me this Sunday. Pinch Punch, first day of the month. Hope you're having a lovely weekend out there. Really appreciate your company, because this show isn't about me and my wonderful guests who are in just in a minute. It's all about you and your views. So let me know what you think about the stories we're discussing. Anything you want to chat about? Are you ready for Christmas? Christmas stories. Lots of festive treats coming up in the show. It's very easy to get involved. gbnews.com/your say and join in our conversation. Keeping me company on today's show is, drumroll please, former co-deputy leader of Reform UK, Ben Habib, and political commentator Matthew Stadland. Thank you very much. And you've got your own Christmas tree each. You notice that, boys? Happy?
We're wearing the same tie as well, same brand.
Same brand of tie, yes. Thank you very much. We've had a very long, very interesting conversation about ties before you came to us. But yeah, they're going to shut up about that. It's all about Christmas. But before we get stuck into today's stories, let's get those news headlines with Tatiana Sanchez.
Dawn, thank you very much and good afternoon. Well, we start with some breaking news today. 34-year-old man has been arrested on suspicion of rape at the Groucho Club in London's Soho. The arrest took place last night at an address in Hertfordshire, according to the Metropolitan Police. At this stage, the force says there's no suggestion that any employees of the club were involved. The Groucho Club, a private members venue popular with celebrities, had its licence suspended earlier this week following a request by the Met Police. A full hearing must be held within 28 days of the suspension. And in some more breaking news, 2 schoolboys have been charged following a suspected chemical attack at Surbiton railway station, which caused 2 police officers to be taken to hospital. The suspects, aged 14 and 16, were at the station in southwest London at around 4:20 p.m. on Friday when they were spotted by British Transport Police acting suspiciously. When officers approached the teenage boys, they were exposed to a substance believed to be alkaline, according to the British Transport Police. The 2 officers were taken to hospital for treatment but have since been discharged. The 2 boys are due to appear in court tomorrow. In other news, some MPs who backed the assisted dying bill have indicated they could consider changing their minds along the process amid concerns over palliative care provision and safeguarding. MPs will be able to suggest amendments to the legislation when it moves to its next parliamentary step, the committee stage. Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster, Pat McFadden, told GB News there's still a long way to go.
Now that Parliament's voted on that on Friday, it will go into committee. It will be considered in much more detail now, like every other piece of legislation, and it should be because it's such a serious issue. And the House of Commons will have to vote on it again in a few months' time. So this bill, this big and serious measure, will be properly and fully considered clause by clause now, as it should be. And even though we had the vote on Friday, I still think there's probably a long way to go before this becomes law.
Pat McFadden also suggested that questions over costs of assisted dying plans could be among the things discussed in the next stage of the process. Shadow Environment Secretary Victoria Atkins, who voted in favour, says it's a good idea to be having this conversation.
We saw across the House, from both those who voted aye, but also those who voted no, there was, for example, a real wish to see conversations about palliative care and the quality of palliative care continue. I think we also saw many heartbreaking examples. And there'll be, viewers at home that have been personally affected by this, where they just want to see whether the law can get into a better place than it is at the moment.
In other news, the Prime Minister says a new phase for his government will begin this week under what he calls a plan for change for Britain. Sir Keir Starmer is set to announce he'll reform the public sector and overhaul Whitehall when he makes a major speech marking the next phase of government. The Prime Minister will announce the markers for his so-called missions that Number 10 says will allow the public to hold Sir Keir and his team to account on their manifesto promises. It's been suggested these moves will influence decisions for next year's spending review. Gregg Wallace has responded to the mounting allegations against him in a defiant video posted online today, saying the accusations come from middle-class women of a certain age. Wallace, who stepped back from presenting the BBC cooking show MasterChef after accusations he made sexual comments towards staff and celebrity guests on a range of programmes over 17 years, says he worked with more than 4,000 contestants over the years of all different ages, background and walks of life. Well, now TV presenter Kirstie Allsopp has accused Mr Wallace of making inappropriate comments to her when they worked together. Posting on X today, she said, within 1 hour of meeting him, he told me of a sex act he and his partner at the time enjoyed. She goes on to say it was totally unprofessional. Mr Wallace and his lawyers have strongly denied all of the accusations.
In the newspaper, I can see the complaints coming from a handful of middle-class women of a certain age, just from Celebrity MasterChef.
And finally, the Princess of Wales has delivered her first Christmas message in the form of a letter ahead of her annual carol service. In that message to those planning to attend the service next week, she says love is the greatest gift people can give each other. This appearance will be Princess Catherine's most prominent return to royal engagements. Since undergoing preventative chemotherapy, it is the 4th year that the Princess has hosted her together at Christmas carol service. Those are the latest GB News headlines for now. It's back to Dawn.
Thank you very much, Tatiana. Now, the very first thing I want to do is read out some of your messages, because this show is all about you. So, Amanda, hi, Amanda. She says, hi, Dawn, happy Sunday. We can't put our tree up yet. My son, Andrew, is 22 today. Happy birthday to Andrew. And my mum was exactly the same. Not allowed to put the tree up until after my birthday, which is the 11th, by the way, I mentioned. And James, thank you for saying nice things, James. You're all welcome to join in the conversation, gbnews.com/your-say. This is a lovely, festive, warm Sunday lunchtime show, and it's all about you, so get in touch. OK, now let's talk about the stories we're covering today. Cabinet Minister Liz Kendall has been branded a hypocrite for removing winter fuel payments for 10 million pensioners, while bills at her second home were being met from the public purse. That's you and me, and indeed some of those pensioners. The Work and Pension Secretary says she is allowed to claim costs for the second property in her Leicester West constituency. The most recent documents revealed taxpayers covered just under £4,000 in energy costs, as over 100,000 pensioners will be forced into poverty. OK, Deep breaths, Dawn. Let's see what my panel make of this one before I get very angry, which I do about this subject. This includes my mum, and I'm sure lots of you and your relatives as well. I have a former co-deputy leader of Reform UK, Ben Habib, and political commentator Matthew Stadlen with me first. Now, this is, if you haven't seen the paper today, this is the front page of the Mail on Sunday, who, yes, obviously, are put on earth not to support the Labour Party. And the headline inside is kicking teeth for 10 million pensioners, which, Matthew Stadlen, it really is, isn't it? This may not be illegal, but it certainly feels like it's immoral.
I think it's a pathetic story. And the reason I think it's pathetic is because whatever you think of the stripping of the winter fuel allowance from pensioners, and I have said from the beginning that I am not in favour of it. I thought it was bad policy because people will be harmed by it. I also thought it was bad politics, bad optics. It is completely irrelevant that the minister in charge, and it won't have been her decision, this would have been decided at the very top by Keir Starmer, that the minister in charge happens to be partnered with a wealthy banker or whatever he might be, living in a nice house in Notting Hill. That is irrelevant to making good or bad policy. We've just had a Prime Minister in the shape of Rishi Sunak, who, together with his wife, was worth hundreds of millions of pounds. Did that disentitle him to be Prime Minister? Maybe it made him a little more out of touch than some MPs. But the idea, because you are claiming on your second home, which is you are entitled to do, all MPs,
Absolutely.
all 650 MPs, whatever party they may represent, they are all entitled to do it. So this is just a way of the Daily Mail having another dig at Labour, and in this case, a particular minister.
Ben, it's just another dig at Labour. They're doing nothing wrong at all. Leave the poor woman alone.
Well, I agree with Matthew to the extent that an individual's wealth shouldn't be held against them. But I think the story here is of her claiming, if she is wealthy, even less reason for her to claim her allowance. And well, I would go further, and I would say this Labour government is entirely hypocritical, just at about every single level. You know, we talked about the economy as we were walking in. The Labour Party justified its tax rises and the way that it's treated the British people on this so-called black hole of £22 billion that it found. But the budget it announced included £77 billion of annual expenditure, which they're funding by taxing the working class, whom they said they would never tax, through the reduction on, you know, the threshold at which NI is applied, by increasing the rate of NI, damaging small businesses by introducing both an inheritance tax on small businesses as well as higher rates, and they said they'd never do that, damaging farmers' interests, and at the same time as damaging farmers' interests, imposing inheritance tax on them, breaking up patrician farming in this country. We discover that they're spending $500 million a year abroad on foreign farms. And we get told repeatedly that we haven't got enough money to look after our own, but then we get told £11 billion is being spent on foreign climate change projects. I mean, there is no real joined-up pro-British thinking coming out of the Labour government.
Can I just respond to that point on foreign aid? Because as long as I've been hosting radio shows or appearing on television shows like this, it is always the cry of the right.
Not foreign aid. Foreign climate change project.
That is part of the foreign aid budget.
So this is an £11 billion package that they've put together independently.
I happen to believe that how that money is spent is not only important, but that it should be scrutinised. However, the idea that this is just part of British largesse to people abroad when we should be focusing only on our own people, it isn't. It is in our self-interest, in our national interest, to be contributing around the world, because it is an expression of soft power, and also it is a recognition, Ben, that issues such as climate change or mass migration, something you feel very strongly about, are global issues and that need to be tackled collectively.
It's 11.6 billion to African climate aid, 1.5 billion they're going to raise from the pensioners' winter fuel allowance. Charity begins at home, surely, when pensioners... Well, an estimated 5,000 of them could potentially die this winter.
Sorry, are you saying that this particular £11 billion to climate change in Africa sits outside our our budget for
outside our foreign aid budget.
Yeah. But it's the same principle. We cannot ignore what goes on around the world. Yes, it should be scrutinised, but we don't. We physically, geographically live on an island,
No,
but
sure.
not in reality.
Sure, Matt, I get all of that. But when they're telling you in one breath that there's a 22 billion black hole, whatever that is, by the way, I think that's all nonsense.
I think it's half nonsense.
It's all nonsense. You know, what governments decide to spend their money on is entirely discretionary.
This is about money that wasn't accounted for.
I know, but you could save that money overnight, for example, by withdrawing benefits from people who are in this country and on foreigners in this country on benefits. You know, we're spending somewhere between 10 and 15 billion pounds a year on benefits for foreigners. We're spending 8 billion pounds a year on housing illegal migrants, giving them free dental care, cash, all the rest of it. There's a thick end of 20 billion pounds being spent on people in this country who aren't British citizens. So there are millions of ways that government can readjust its cloth cutting to address its financial needs. And it just seems so, and I know you agree with me on this, it seems so absurd that they would go after 10 million pensioners where their own assessment determined a few years ago that 4,000, I think, pensioners would die if their winter fuel allowance.
Unfortunately, gentlemen, we have to come to a break on that one.
Okay.
We do move on. But it is a subject you could talk about.
Ben has made so many assertions, some of which I would love to challenge.
Oh, unfortunately, you haven't got time. What a shame. In any case, you've got plenty of time. You're with me for 2 hours. For all the best analysis and opinion on that story and more, go to our website, gbnews.com. Now, the other big story today is still Gregg Wallace. He has responded to the mounting allegations against him in a defiant, I think is the way to put it, video posted online, saying the accusations come from middle-class women of a certain age. Wallace is facing accusations that he made sexual comments towards staff and celebrity guests of a range of programmes over 17 years. Now, TV presenter Kirsty Allsop is the latest just this morning to accuse Gregg Wallace of making inappropriate comments to her while they worked together. Wallace released this video earlier. Have a look.
I've been doing MasterChef for 20 years. Amateur, celebrity and professional MasterChef. And I think in that time, I have worked with over 4,000 contestants of all different ages, all different backgrounds, all walks of life. And apparently now, I'm reading in the paper, there's been 13 complaints in that time. Now, in the newspaper, I can see the complaints coming from a handful of middle-class women of a certain age just from Celebrity MasterChef. This isn't right. In 20 years, over 20 years of television, can you imagine how many women, female contestants on MasterChef, have made sexual remarks or sexual innuendo? Can you imagine?
Can you imagine what his advisors are thinking watching that? Greg, no, just step away from the phone. Now, the first rule of holes, whatever hole you're in, surely, is just stop digging. Now, seeing as Ben, Matthew, we're going to come first to you on this one. Matthew.
I'm almost lost for words, which doesn't often happen.
No, it doesn't. It really doesn't happen with you, does it?
Just imagine being his representative.
Yeah, exactly. No, step away.
As my understanding is he has denied all of these allegations.
Yes, absolutely.
However, this approach seems almost to be saying, well, even if these things did happen, I didn't make inappropriate remarks to thousands of people, so that's OK. It was only 13 people. And by the way, they were middle class, as if somehow middle class women are, I don't know, are more deserving or more complaining. It's such a confused
more Karen.
In this country, you do not bring class into it when you are trying to defend yourself, whether that's about the middle classes, the working classes, to the extent that these things anyway exist anymore, or the upper classes. It is a catastrophic attempt at self-defence.
It's like, OK, right, whatever you do, just don't blame the women, right? Don't blame the women. Agent puts phone down.
There is obviously a more serious thing here, and I reiterate that he denies these allegations.
He does deny all these allegations, nothing inappropriate
More generally,
happens.
we seem to have a problem with men in power. We know we do that, and one form of power is when you are a big personality,
Mm-hmm.
the so-called talent. I've worked in television on and off for most of my career. And there's this idea, isn't there, of the talent, which is so offensive because actually the people who work behind the scenes are just as talented as the people who work in front of the camera. They just do different jobs, and without them, the whole thing would fall apart. And it's as though some of the people who are classified as the talent, classified as the big personality, think that they are just too big to fall. Just read a Greek tragedy or read Shakespearean tragedy to understand that that is not how life works.
Stop getting classical on me. I'm not middle class, I'm just working class, right? So I don't fall into this category. Phew. And I'm not middle-aged either, because that would mean I'm going to live to 120. I don't think that's going to happen. Ben, this is really carrying on digging until you hit Australia. Or does he have a bit of a point?
I can't see any point in what he said. He basically categorised himself as a classist and an ageist. And what is wrong with middle-class women of a certain age?
And what age is he, by the way?
Yeah, and, you know, you described him, Matt, as talent. I'd never heard of this man until I
watched it. I have never watched it.
Oh, come on.
I hadn't. But I think the serious point here is how many people are there out there who are guilty of sexual misconduct with public profiles and have yet to be held to account? You know, they keep coming out of the woodwork, don't they? And Mohammed Al-Fayed is now, I think, accused of having assaulted 111 women. How did he get through his life and die without being incarcerated, without being challenged on this? How did that happen?
I've got part of an answer. I think it is because partly the wider culture, perhaps, of saying yes to talent, of somehow being slightly fearful or overly respectful of so-called talent. But also, if you break it down to individual cases, you can imagine where powerful men pick on people who are far less powerful, and all of whom might have something to lose by calling it out or complaining.
This is the problem. I mean, I'm just going to read this comment out to you. Keep the comments coming in, by the way, gbnews.com/you're saying. This is from Bunderchuk, Star Word Poet. I hope I pronounced that right. You say, well done, Greg, for standing up for yourself, mate. The Matthew Stadlins of this world, that's you, Matthew, will always jump on a bandwagon. Well, Matthew isn't, because I've asked him the question, so, I pushed him onto the bandwagon, if you like. There's lots of comments coming in, like Greg standing up for himself. These are hurty words. You know, women basically need to get over themselves and stop being upset by these sort of comments. I'm paraphrasing, but that's what some of you are saying. Ben?
I understand where people are coming from. I think all of us need to be more robust about, what we hear and be able to hear what we regard as repugnant without being perpetually offended. But I do think there is something wrong about making sexual jokes and sexual innuendo in a workplace. I mean, fine, if you take a girl out for a drink and you're interested in her, then you can, perhaps test the waters with a bit of a nod, and a wink.
What do you mean by test the waters? Ben?
Well, you might make a joke and see how she reacts. That's how, I don't know, how do you flirt? How do you flirt, Matt?
Well, not by making sexualised jokes, I don't think.
OK, well, whatever.
By the way, on this point about robustness, I think there's an important difference between you and I debating, as we would with anyone watching today if they were in the studio, robustly, and I hope mostly respectfully, and thoroughly disagreeing with each other on important things. And sexualised, as you say, sexualised comments in the workplace.
I don't think there's any room for it in the workplace.
Between those two things,
absolutely.
And you can disagree very strongly and robustly, and you can be prepared to sit in the same studio as someone who fundamentally disagrees with you. But that is very different to a man in a position of power making sexualised jokes in front of others.
Yeah, I mean, whether or not he's in a position of power, I think it's inappropriate to make sexual jokes or innuendo in the workplace.
OK, right. Lots of you are saying, though. Now, just to be clear, right, the accusations do go back sort of like 17 years, I believe. MasterChef's been going for 20 years, unbelievably. And it isn't just hurty words or rude jokes. Believe me, I do rude jokes, I know. I've been on tabloids all my life. I do rude jokes. But this is also a bit more. It's about gestures. It's about wandering in naked apart from wearing a sock on your bits. That kind
Is that what he did?
One of the accusations...
Oh, my goodness. That's not sexual innuendo.
One of the accusations allegedly is that he wandered into one of the studios naked, wearing a sock, not on his feet, obviously.
That's more than a nod and a wink.
Yes, exactly. Yes, so thank you very much. But Gregg Wallace's lawyers have strongly denied he engages in sexually harassing behaviour, while the BBC said it will always listen to people, want to make us aware of something directly. Right, OK, and in 17 years we might get round to it. Sorry, you know. Any case, it's time now. Let's have some good news, shall we? It's time now for our biggest and greatest Great British giveaway this year. This year, yeah, well, and your chance to win £50,000 in tax-free cash in time for the new year. It's the biggest prize we've ever given away, and it could all be yours tax-free. Here's all the details you need how to win it.
It's the biggest, greatest Great British giveaway so far, with your chance to win a spectacular £50,000 in tax-free cash. 2025 could be amazing, with plenty of treats, holidays and fun on the horizon. How would you enjoy that cash? £50,000 will make someone our biggest ever winner. For another chance to win £50,000 cash, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Oh, good luck indeed. Yeah, it'd be lovely to win that. And Ben's just told me a very naughty joke, and I'm not offended, by the way. I'm Dawn Neeson. This is GBNews, and there's lots more coming up on today's show. The Princess of Wales speaks of love in the darkest times in a message ahead of her Christmas Carol concert. All of that and much, much more to come. This is GB News, Britain's news channel. We'll see you very soon.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Millions are struggling to stay warm with the wet weather, the cost of living and, of course, cuts to fuel payments.
Yes, winter is fast approaching, so it's crucial to find cost-effective ways to save on your energy expenses whilst staying reasonably warm.
So joining us to provide advice on heating your home, or at least staying warm somehow, is one of the leading voices on lowering energy bills, Nick Miles. And you are very welcome in here this morning. I mean, a lot of people say, well, in the olden days, you just used to put on an extra jumper. But actually, it's more serious than that, isn't it? What is the best way, the most cost-effective way to keep your home warm?
Some of the bigger things is we need to do more things on insulating our properties, but actually sometimes, you know, it can be simple things like turning down a thermostat. You know, those that have got the luxury of being able to afford energy bills and keep their homes on the thermostat a bit too high. If you just turn it down by one simple degree, as long as you keep it between 18 and 22 degrees, can save up to 5 to 10% of your energy bill. So that's a kind of a very simple way of doing things. But, you know, it can be other little tips and tricks you can do as well.
Yeah, I was going to say, because I always get it when people say about this, but like 18 degrees is not warm for a house.
No, and it's twofold actually. It's that kind of relative temperature, but also it's the kind of drafts and things you have in your house. So it's the comfort factor. So what we have a lot of old properties in our country. You've got some 8 million hard-to-treat properties built before World War II that have got poor insulation, but also very, very drafty. So it's the temperature and it's the kind of the draftiness of them that kind of keeps us uncomfortable.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Why go out on a Friday night when Friday night comes straight to your home?
Talking about.
Join me and my A-team of top pundits. Chemistry tonight is electric. As we tackle the big stories of the day with wit, insight and fearless energy.
Man of the people.
It's all vibe.
Just a filing cabinet on wheels with a tie on.
So, order in Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, every Friday at 8, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the weekend with me, Dawn Neeson. Thank you for joining me on this very festive Sunday afternoon, 1st of December. Now, this is a lovely, heartwarming story. The Princess of Wales says love is the greatest gift people can give one another in a message to those planning to attend her annual Christmas Carol service next week. This appearance will be Kate's most prominent return to royal engagements since undergoing preventive chemotherapy. Joining me now is former royal correspondent at The Sun, my old colleague, the lovely Charles Ray. Charles, there you are. Thank you very much for joining me this afternoon. Now, this is actually on the 1st of December, Christmas trees up, festive feeling around, first day of Advent as well. A really happy, positive message from Catherine, isn't it?
It is, and hello, my lovely. It is absolutely a really, really nice story, given what you've been discussing, given what we've heard over this last year. This has not been a great year for people in this country for a vast number of reasons. But the fact that the Princess has taken time to write this deeply poignant and emotional letter to the 1,600 guests, which is now released, you know, saying basically that this carol concert will emphasize the importance of love in the darkest of times, you know, I think emphasizes what has been going on, not just in her private life, as you quite rightly say. She's been battling cancer. Her father-in-law is battling cancer. And it's nice to see the sort of people who are being invited as well to this concert. You've got Sir Chris Hoy, who's announced that he's got terminal cancer. You've got Michelle Dockery from Downtown Abbey, whose fiancé died of cancer. You've got Lindsay Burrow, the widow of the rugby international Rob Burrow, who died in June. Plus, she's invited some of the young survivors of the terrible stabbings in Southport earlier this year. So she wants to try to bring everyone closer together. And it's a message that she's put out that often gets lost out there, that we should be looking after each other a lot more, care for each other, you know, a lot more, and care for those who have a lot less going for them than some of us have, you know, and we should look at these sort of things in a positive light.
Many of us sadly have experienced our, loved ones with cancer, diagnosed with cancer, and losing loved ones to cancer. And this letter, it sends to everyone that's attending the carol concert, including the choir and everybody, and it's so resoundingly positive. It keeps repeating references to love. I mean, that word's mentioned 11 times, and light, and it's just such a positive vibe going into the festive season.
It does, and I think what she's trying to do is, as she mentions as well, that the people who are suffering, this reflects our own vulnerabilities. No one is immune from catching or contracting the disease of cancer. You know, we're all hostages to that fortune. If we get away with it, we're just lucky. If we don't, then we've got to make the best we can of it. And I think she's done brilliantly. And given as well that she was quite heavily criticised in some quarters earlier this year, particularly on that dreadful Wild West of social media in particular. I think she's come through this with flying colours, and her dignity is at the highest of levels.
Absolutely, Charlie. Charles, I call you Charlie. Charles, a real inspiration. Thank you very much. Mr. Ray, as I used to call you in the newsroom because I was scared of you. Thanks very much, Charles. I'm Dawn Neeson. This is GB News, and there's plenty more coming up on today's show. But first, let's get the news headlines with Tatiana.
Dawn, thank you very much. We start this news bulletin with this news that a 34-year-old man has been arrested on suspicion of rape at the Groucho Club in London, Soho. The arrest took place last night at an address in Hertfordshire, according to the Metropolitan Police. At this stage, the force says there's no suggestion that any employees of the club were involved. Now, the Groucho Club, a private members venue popular with celebrities, had its licence suspended earlier this week following a request by the Metropolitan Police. A full hearing must be held within 28 days of the suspension. In other news, some MPs who backed the assisted dying bill have indicated they could consider changing their mind along the process amid concerns over palliative care provision and safeguarding. MPs will be able to suggest amendments to the legislation when it moves into its next parliamentary step, the committee stage. Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster, Pat McFadden, told GBNews there's still a long way to go.
Now that Parliament's voted on that on Friday, it will go into committee. It will be considered in much more detail now, like every other piece of legislation, and it should be because it's such a serious issue. And the House of Commons will have to vote on it again in a few months' time. So this bill, this big and serious measure, will be properly and fully considered clause by clause now, as it should be. And even though we had the vote on Friday, I still think there's probably a long way to go before this becomes law.
And Gregg Wallace has responded to the mounting allegations against him in a defiant video posted online today, saying the accusations come from middle-class women of a certain age. Wallace, who stepped back from presenting the BBC cooking show MasterChef after accusations he made sexual comments towards staff and celebrity guests on a range of programmes over 17 years, says he worked with more than 4,000 contestants over the years of all different ages, backgrounds and walks of life. Now, TV presenter Kirsty Allsop has accused Mr Wallace of making inappropriate comments to her when they worked together. Posting on X today, she said within 1 hour of meeting him, he told me of a sex act that he and his partner at the time enjoyed. She goes on to say it was totally unprofessional. Mr Wallace and his lawyers have strongly denied all of the accusations made. And those are the latest GB News headlines for now. I'm Tatiana Sanchez. More news from me in half an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Good morning, welcome to your latest GB News weather from the Met Office. So some sunny spells and blustery showers on the way for many of us today, but it is going to be turning colder as we head in towards the new working week. That's all thanks to this cold front that's sinking its way south and eastwards over the next few hours or so, bringing us northerly winds, particularly across the northern half of the UK into the start of Monday, but those spreading southwards through the rest of the week. Back to the rest of Sunday though. Plenty of showers around, particularly across western areas. These likely to turn heavy across parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland. But the further south and further east you are, there should be some sunshine as we head through the afternoon. And it will still be feeling mild for the time of year. Temperatures in the south perhaps around 15 or 16 degrees. And even across parts of Scotland, we could see 12 or 13 degrees. So well above average for the time of year. Through the rest of Sunday evening, those showers do continue. This band of showers across parts of Scotland could turn particularly heavy as we go through into this evening. And there'll be plenty of showers pushing in across northern and western areas into this evening as well. Across Northern Ireland, a pretty similar picture. Plenty of showers in the west, but staying a little bit drier for a time further east. Across parts of Wales, southwest England, those blustery showers pushing up on that southwesterly breeze. But eastern parts of England, perhaps just staying that little bit drier in towards this evening. Overnight, those showers continue to push their way eastwards, so almost anywhere seeing a bit of wet weather into the early hours of Monday morning. But across parts of Scotland, we'll see those showers starting to turn increasingly to sleet and snow, particularly over any high ground as we go into the start of Monday. And it'll be a chillier night for most of us, perhaps some frost across parts of Scotland, and even further south, temperatures dropping to around 6 or 7 degrees quite widely. Into the start of Monday morning, this band of showers pushes its way southwards across the country, but the further west you are, there should be plenty of sunny spells as we head towards the afternoon, but those sleet and snow showers do continue across the northern parts of Scotland, so that should lead to us feeling a little bit chillier than we've seen recently. Those northerly winds bringing us cooler temperatures around 10 or 11 in the south and around 4 or 5 in the north.
Join me, Nana Akua, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking,
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
down to earth,
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
and most importantly, honest,
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get the book thrown at them.
then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Hello, welcome back. This is the weekend with me, Dawn Neeson. Sorry, I'm trying to keep my hat on my head. Yeah, as you might have spotted, we're in a festive mood here. I'm worried about my blow-dry that I had this morning.
Because you've got such a big head like me.
I have got a very big head. And Matthew Stadlen's also worried about his hair. Meanwhile, Ben just looks gorgeous and very, very cute. And,
I look awful.
No, you do. You look lovely. And it fits you properly, at least. In any case, it's the Christmas season. It's time to spread some festive cheer. And who better to do that than Father Christmas? But obviously, kids, the real Santa isn't available for an interview because he's very, very busy at this time of year, isn't he? Sorting all of you into that naughty or nice list. Because Santa isn't free, though, he has sent one of his most important little helpers. It's the director of the Ministry of Fun and Santa School, Matt Grist. Matt, thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. I'm very excited. As you can see, I'm very excited. I'm almost wearing a Santa hat properly. Matt, so you train people how to be Santa's helpers. Obviously not to be Santa, because there's only one Santa, but you train people how to be Santas, helping Santa out at this very busy time of year.
That's absolutely right. Yeah, we've been doing it for over a quarter of a century at the Ministry of Fun Santa School, training people how to portray the wonderful and important role of Father Christmas for those very rare occasions when the great man can't be there himself. Please rest assured, though, Dawn, whenever you or any of your friends and family go and see Father Christmas, it will, of course, be the real one. But yes, on occasions, there are times when he can't be there in person, so we help him out and send along. There's some wonderful pictures of activities past. Yeah, so when he can't be there in person, we send along one of his wonderful friends to represent him and make sure that every child that meets Father Christmas has a wonderful and magical and memorable experience, really.
They all look very jolly, it has to say, Matt. Is there a certain type you have to be one of these very, very important Santa's helpers?
Traditionally, the answer would be yes. I mean, everyone has a fixed idea of what we think of Father Christmas looking like and sounding like, certainly in this country. It obviously varies in different parts of the world. But traditionally, yes, we think of him as a rather weighty, in all meanings of the word, warm, robust, jolly old fellow. But really, he is just a very kind, gentle man that that knows, cares, and is friends with every single child. So really, he can look like you imagine him to look, whatever that may be. But the most important things are his character and his personality and his characteristics. And yes, that's kindness, that's listening, that's friendship, and there are obviously all the caricatures, if you like, and cliches that everyone thinks of Santa and everyone thinks of a Santa grotto experience, which are true, but obviously the reality is sometimes children come in and want to talk about random things with Father Christmas. In many ways, we've often said that he's the first celebrity, if you think about it, that children meet. Because they watch television and movies and cartoons, etc. But really, he's the first one they get to meet every year, so it's quite exciting for them.
OK, Matt, I have a real challenge for you now. I'm not sure whether you're braced for this one. I have two wannabe Santas with me today, Matt Stadlen and Ben Habib. We're going to start. I don't think I've ever seen a red-haired Santa, so this could be our opportunity. So, Matt, I would just like you, first of all, let's start with Matt. Can you give him some advice on how to be the perfect Santa? Matthew, What should Matthew do? You know, how should he, you know, glare at the camera like he is now?
Well, for starters, I mean, you've got a beard. That's a good start.
And it's getting white as well. Have you noticed?
Oh, Matt, I think we've lost your audio. Have we lost? Oh, right, OK. I think we might have lost him. So is this a role you feel you could fulfil? I mean, you've got a little boy, haven't you, Matthew? So...
No, I've never, have to admit, I mean, huge respect to Matt, but I've never really been into the sort of pretend Santa thing. I'm more for the real Santa. And all through our childhood, because on my dad's side, they came from Vienna and they celebrate on Christmas Eve, we would all gather, about 40 of us, and the little children, we'd be upstairs and we'd hear Santa's bell, and we would all come down the stairs and open our presents under the tree.
I think we have Matt back. Do we now? Matt, are you there now again?
I am indeed, yes.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, someone's on the naughty list for that, by the way. So, OK, give Matthew Stadlin here with me a little bit of advice about how he can be the perfect Santa to his little boy over this festive period.
Well, for starters, I would think the most important quality, actually, and you seem to be demonstrating it already, sir, is listening, and it's caring and wanting Christmas to be magical and warm and wonderful. It's not about the gifts as much as children and families may sometimes think of that first. It's about family and friendship and kindness and all those things. So it's just listening in the first instance. So, and I suppose the other key thing we'd say to anybody trying to portray the great man is not to start by asking, who are you, what's your name, what do you want for Christmas? Because the real Father Christmas knows all that. So it would be saying things like, nice to see you again, because of course you've seen them before, be it on Christmas Eve or when they visited you in a grotto or at a school fair or wherever. So nice to see you again, how wonderful to see you again, and remind me, what is it that you would most want for Christmas this year, and not to promise presents. That's the other important thing.
Good advice.
You can't
Good
promise
advice.
if a child comes in. Sorry, Dawn.
Sorry, Matt, I was going to say, the important thing, though, before we come on to Ben, my other wannabe Santa, is the ho, ho, ho. Give us your best ho, ho, ho.
Ho, 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 ho.
Yeah. Not quite grotto ready yet, I'm afraid. Yeah.
Sorry, that's a bit threatening, I found that, to be honest with you. I don't want you anywhere near my stocking.
It was a bit insincere. I think you've got to think of the ho, ho, ho less of a line and more of a laugh, more of a real hearty laugh.
All right, stop now. OK, let's go to my other Santa wannabe, Ben Habib, who's sitting here. I have to say, actually carrying that hat off brilliantly. You look wonderful, Ben.
I think I look like a pixie.
We've got to be very... sorry, Ben, we're running out of time. Just give us your best ho, ho, ho.
Ho, ho, ho!
Matt?
Again, there's potential there. I don't think we're quite grotto ready yet, Ben, I'm afraid. Sorry about that.
Oh, that's brilliant. Sorry, we've run out of time, but you can keep the hat on because you look cute. Matt Grist, thank you very much. Really appreciate your time today.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
And Merry Christmas to you as well.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you very much for joining us. That's wonderful. Oh, right, OK. I'm Dawn Neeson. This is GB News. There's lots more festive fun coming up on today's show, including, get this one, a Birmingham boozer is banning entry to anyone wearing full tracksuit or jogging bottoms even. Do you think pubs have a dress code? And should it include Santa hats, by the way? All of that and much more to come. This is GB News, Britain's news channel. Don't go too far. We'll see you very soon.
I'm Christopher Hope. This is GB News, Britain's election channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Now we're joined now by Sophia Viraji, the co-founder of the Azaylia Foundation, which was created due to the tragic passing of her 8-month-old daughter to leukemia. The foundation is doing some incredible work for children's cancer.
Yeah, some really incredible stuff. They've just launched a PhD even where they're funding young doctors to specialise in childhood cancer as, get this, I wasn't aware of this, it's one of the most underfunded areas in the NHS. So not many sectors choose to go down that route, unfortunately. The charity, the foundation, have donated over £1 million worth of equipment to hospitals as well, and we're delighted to welcome Sophia. You've turned a tragedy and grief into triumph, I guess, and something so inspiring. Just tell us about that. Do you recognise that in yourself and the work you're doing?
Yeah, I'm here to always honour my daughter and to always continue her name, her legacy, and to support all of these other children fighting against childhood cancer.
It was all over social media. I mean, you were at one point probably one of the most famous families in this country because of Azaylia and Azaylia's fight. When you look back now at that time, does it give you comfort that you had so many people behind you?
Absolutely. The community that we have got, the humanity that we've seen in the UK and all around the world, in fact, has really touched my heart, and that kindness, love and support has always been the backbone of carrying me through this, to give me hope, to give me belief, and it still inspires me and encourages me till today to continue to do that, to show that light, to show that courage and bravery.
GB News, the People's Channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is GB News, the People's Channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Nightmare commute? Kick it up a gear with GB News Radio. You can listen online and on DAB+ and on the GB News app. We're also on TuneIn and the Radio Player apps. From the school run to rush hour, get revved up with GB News Radio. We are the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Okay, welcome back to the weekend with me, Dawn Newsom, in a silly Santa hat, but it is the 1st of December. Thank you for joining me this afternoon. Right now, should pubs have a dress code? The Dark Horse pub, that's why I'm still wearing my hat. The Dark Horse pub near Birmingham is banning entry to anyone donning a full tracksuit or jogging bottoms. Some regular boozers are calling it discrimination. But, I mean, oh, come on, basically, the question is, should pubs have a dress code? I mean, Ben Habib, still looking marvellous, it has to say. I'm sorry, this might be a bit inappropriate in the Gregg Wallace style, but I'm developing a bit of a crush on Ben.
This has been going on for the last 15 minutes.
What?
And this is a marginalisation.
Are you feeling a little bit
left out? Just because my hat doesn't fit.
It doesn't fit. I've got a big head
I should have a bigger hat.
Yeah, all right. And it goes, dress codes.
Because you've got a big head, Matt.
Yeah, well, I'm saying nothing. And again, Ben, dress codes in pubs.
Well, it's a private enterprise, so I think the publican can do whatever he wishes. But it's a really good example, I think, of where regulations prohibit business. Every regulation that government puts in place is an impediment to our freedom to do something. And businesses have to comply with it. It puts barricades up and makes things more expensive. And so if you're a publican and you want to maximise your bottom line, I think you've got to think quite carefully about whether the imposition of a dress code is going to achieve that end. Of course, if people are habitually turning up into your pub looking like the, back end of a bus or whatever...
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. You should have said something the other night.
But sorry, there's a serious point before I come to the pub point, which I know some people will think is serious, but you just said, Ben, effectively, that every regulation that government puts in place is an impediment to growth, really. And I would come back at that and I say, yeah, of course regulations have to be looked at carefully, because where they're unnecessary and bureaucratic, that can harm growth in our country.
I'm not saying we should have an entirely deregulated world.
OK.
No, I'm not saying that. But, one has to be aware that every regulation you put in place, there is either a difficulty associated with complying with it or a cost associated with complying with it.
But we should remember that when you think back to tragedies, national tragedies, like the King's Cross fire or Grenfell Tower, regulations are really, really important.
Absolutely.
Okay,
But
on the issue of pubs...
But can I just quickly... Because I hadn't finished. And so my point is, the regulation that he's imposed on his pub may be valid if he's got people turning up looking awful all the time and it's damaging his trade, which is, comes back to what you were saying, that some regulation is good. And I wouldn't in any way advocate for an entirely regulatory-free world. I do think our obsession with regulation has gone too far and we need to pare a lot of regulations back. And I imagine publicans should allow as many people into their pubs as possible.
To be fair to this pub, we're running out of time very quickly, but to be fair, this is only after 9 o'clock on a Friday and Saturday night when you expect it. It's a music pub, a bit more dressy maybe. They don't want people in their tracksuit and their smelly trainers.
Well, my instinctive response is that this is sort of discriminatory, not in a very serious way, but if you can't go to a pub dressed effectively as you like, what can you do in this country anymore? But on the other hand, if private members' clubs or certain nightclubs are quite capable of imposing dress codes, why shouldn't a pub?
Well, exactly. In any case, I think we should go to the pub after and put our dress code to the test. Thank you very much for that one. Don't go too far. We'll be back straight after this short interlude with Ellie and the weather forecast for you. My hat's falling off now. See you soon.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good afternoon. Welcome to your latest GB News weather from the Met Office. So plenty of blustery showers continuing through the rest of today, but we should see some clear spells overnight. And with some northerly winds on the way, it will be turning colder as we head in towards the new working week. This area of low pressure up to the north of the UK pushes away towards Scandinavia, leaving us northerly winds across all of the UK as we head through Monday. But back to Sunday evening, plenty of showers around. This band of showers across central areas pushes its way eastwards, turning particularly heavy over any high ground. But across southern areas, there should be some clear spells around between those showers, but it will still be quite a mild night compared to what we've seen recently. Temperatures in the south around 6, 7, perhaps 8 degrees, although with some northerly winds across parts of Scotland turning chillier here, perhaps a frost to start the day in places. For northern areas, it will be quite a cloudy start to the day on Monday. Across parts of Scotland, those showers that we see overnight, turning increasingly to sleet and snow, particularly over the hills, so definitely feeling a bit of a chillier start here. Across Northern Ireland, we will still see some showers around through the morning, but these likely to be falling as rain. The further south you are, perhaps some sunshine to start the day. Across northern parts of England, quite a cloudy and damp start to the day, but for Wales, southern eastern parts of England, perhaps a bit of a brighter start for many of us. Plenty of sunshine as we head through the morning. That band of showers across northern parts of England continues to sink its way southwards, bringing some quite brisk northerly winds across the eastern coast, so really feeling quite chilly here. But the further west you are, there should be some sunshine as we head through the afternoon. Plenty of blue skies around, even if we do see 1 or 2 showers, and the showers continuing to fall as sleet and snow across Scotland, and widely a much cooler day compared to the weekend. Temperatures generally closer to average, around 10 or 11 in the south and only 5 or 6 further north. Those brisk northerly winds continuing across eastern coast as we head through Monday evening, but for many of us it will be turning dry with plenty of clear spells, so that will lead to quite a chilly start on Tuesday, but wet weather is on the way through Tuesday afternoon and into Wednesday, and those temperatures slowly increasing as we head towards the second half of the week.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
It's the biggest, greatest Great British giveaway so far, with your chance to win a spectacular £50,000 in tax-free cash. 2025 could be amazing, with plenty of treats, holidays and fun on the horizon. How would you enjoy that cash? £50,000 will make someone our biggest ever winner. For your chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Go to gbnews.com/shop now and take advantage of our biggest ever Black Friday sale with 25% off all items across our store and free shipping on orders worth £60 or more. There's never been a better time to grab something for the GB News fan in your life. From our signature clothing to drinkware, gifts, accessories and much, much more, you'll find the perfect present this festive season. Use the code BLACKFRIDAY25 on checkout at gbnews.com/shop for our best ever Black Friday deals.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mark Dolan tonight is your weekend dose of news, debate and entertainment.
This sounds like a wild conspiracy theory.
Don't miss My Big Opinion, Mark Meets, and My Take at 10.
Democracy is a funny old thing.
And we don't do boring, not on my watch. I just won't have it.
Let's go and get another glass of that bubbly. You've earned it.
That's Mark Dolan tonight, Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 11, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the arguments. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together and what have we got, in my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Oh, isn't that lovely and Christmassy? Good afternoon. It's 2 o'clock on Sunday, the 1st of December. This is the weekend on GB News. Thank you so much for joining me this afternoon. Really, really appreciate your time.
I describe this as the worst time in my life. My daughter, she was sexually assaulted whilst out with friends.
Now, GB News' Gloria De Piero sat down with Labour MP Joe White, who opened up about how being in the public eye can affect every aspect of your life, as her middle daughter was victim of sexual assault. Then this is the most horrible, sad story. A 95-year-old woman with a broken hip was left on the pavement for 5 hours because ambulance chiefs told her she was not a priority. We're asking what on earth is wrong with our NHS. And 1 in 5 UK adults would have a curry over the Yuletide roast, with the traditional Christmas dinner also being snubbed by choices like mushy peas and chips, mac and cheese. Oh, come on, people. Is the Christmas roast on the chopping block? I'm Dawn Meeson, and this is The Weekend. But this show is nothing without you and your views. So let me know your thoughts on all the stories we're discussing today. So many of you getting in touch, certainly about Gregg Wallace. And I will read as many out as I possibly can as this hour goes on. And it's very simple to get involved in our conversation by visiting gbnews.com/yoursay and join in our conversation. Keeping me company, I'm thrilled to say they're having a great laugh, is a former co-deputy leader of Reform, Ben Habib, and political commentator Matthew Stadler. Thank you very much, gentlemen. But before we get into today's stories, here is the news headlines with Tatiana Sanchez for you.
Dawn, thank you very much and good afternoon. We start with some breaking news that more than 20,000 migrants have arrived in the UK after crossing the English Channel since Sir Keir Starmer became Prime Minister, sources have confirmed. In the early hours of this morning, it's understood 2 small boats were picked up in the Channel with dozens of migrants on board, taking the number of crossings since July to more than 20,000. These are the first crossings since the 16th of November. Before then, 19,988 crossings had been recorded since Labour won the election on the 4th of July. The total for the year, not including last night, is 33,562, according to official figures. In other news, a 34-year-old man has been arrested on suspicion of rape at the Groucho Club in London's Soho. The arrest took place last night at an address in Hertfordshire, according to the Metropolitan Police. At this stage, the force says there's no suggestion that any employees of the club were involved. The Groucho Club, a private members' venue popular with celebrities, had its licence suspended earlier this week following a request by the Met Police. A full hearing must be held within 28 days of the suspension. In other news, 2 schoolboys have been charged following a suspected chemical attack at Surbiton railway station, which caused 2 police officers to be taken to hospital. The suspects, aged 14 and 16, were at the station in southwest London at around 4:20 on Friday afternoon when they were spotted by British Transport Police acting suspiciously. When officers approached the teenage boys, they were exposed to a substance believed to be alkaline, according to the British Transport Police. The 2 officers were taken to hospital for treatment, but have since been discharged. The boys are due to appear in court tomorrow. Some MPs who backed the assisted dying bill have indicated they could consider changing their mind along the process amid concerns over palliative care provision and safeguarding. MPs will be able to suggest amendments to the legislation when it moves into its next parliamentary step, the committee stage. Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster, Pat McFadden, told GB News this morning there's still a long way to go.
Now that Parliament's voted on that on Friday, it will go into committee. It will be considered in much more detail now, like every other piece of legislation, and it should be because it's such a serious issue. And the House of Commons will have to vote on it again in a few months' time. So this bill, this big and serious measure, will be properly and fully considered clause by clause now, as it should be. And even though we had the vote on Friday, I still think there's probably a long way to go before this becomes law.
Pat McFadden also suggested that questions over costs of assisted dying plans could be among the things discussed in the next stage of the process. Shadow Environment Secretary Victoria Atkins, who voted in favour, says it's a good idea to be having this conversation.
We saw across the House, from both those who voted aye, but also those who voted no, there was, for example, a real wish to see conversations about palliative care and the quality of palliative care continue. I think we also saw many heartbreaking examples. And there'll be, viewers at home that have been personally affected by this, where they just want to see whether the law can get into a better place than it is at the moment.
The Prime Minister says a new phase for his government will begin this week under what he calls a plan for change for Britain. Sir Keir Starmer is set to announce he'll reform the public sector and overhaul Whitehall when he makes a major speech marking the next phase of government. The Prime Minister will announce the markers for his so-called missions that Number 10 says will allow the public to hold Sir Keir and his team to account on their manifesto promises. It's been suggested these moves will influence decisions for next year's spending review. Gregg Wallace has responded to the mounting allegations against him in a defiant video posted online, saying the accusations come from middle-class women of a certain age. Wallace, who stepped back from presenting the BBC cooking show MasterChef after accusations he made sexual comments towards staff and celebrity guests on a range of programmes over 17 years, says he worked with more than 4,000 contestants over the years of all different ages, background and walks of life. Well, now TV presenter Kirsty Allsop has accused Mr Wallace of making inappropriate comments to her when they worked together. Posting on X, she said within 1 hour of meeting him, he told me of a sex act he and his partner at the time enjoyed. She goes on to say it was totally unprofessional. Mr Wallace and his lawyers have strongly denied all of the accusations.
In the newspaper, I can see the complaints coming from a handful of middle-class women of a certain age, just from Celebrity MasterChef.
And the Princess of Wales has delivered her first Christmas message in the form of a letter ahead of her annual carol service. In the message to those planning to attend the service next week, she says love is the greatest gift people can give one another. This appearance will be Princess Catherine's most prominent return to royal engagement since undergoing preventative chemotherapy. It's the 4th year that the Princess has hosted her Together at Christmas Carol service. Those are the latest GB News headlines for now. It is back to Dawn.
Thank you very much, Tatiana. OK, and welcome back. Good to see you. Thank you very much for joining me on this very festive, the first Sunday of Advent. Hope you're having a wonderful day out there. Now, let's get straight into today's stories. A 95-year-old woman with a broken hip told pedestrians, "I'm going to die here tonight," after being left on the pavement for 5 hours because ambulance chiefs told her she was not a priority. Despite multiple concerned members of the public making repeated 999 calls for help, explaining she was very elderly and vulnerable, they were told she was not a priority. Now, I was upset when I read the story. I mean, my mum's in her 80s now, and I'm sure, like many of you, got elderly relatives, you might even be elderly yourself. And the fact that you're left there for 5 hours, freezing, and it was only the Good Samaritans passing by that probably saved your life. So let's see what my panel make of this one. I've still got Matthew Stadlen and Ben Habib with me. So I'm going to come to you first on this one, Matthew. Just a horrible, horrible story.
It's a terrible story. And I suspect, unfortunately, that quite a lot of people watching the show today will recognise this. I mean, this is a particularly egregious example of what seems to be shortages in ambulances. This is from anecdotal experience. So a few years ago, I was coming back from my radio show. I saw a man off his delivery bike or whatever it was, his moped, on the floor. And I ended up supporting him, supporting his head because he was unconscious. Other people were helping out as well. We had to wait a considerable time for an ambulance. And when the ambulance finally came, or it might have been the police officer who arrived first, they said to me that there was something like, and this is a little while ago, so I hope I'm not misremembering, 1 or 2 available ambulances north of the river on that particular evening. It was, I think, Boxing Day. And then yesterday, a friend of mine had to take her father to hospital with a suspected heart attack, it turned out. We don't know yet what it actually was, but you can gauge the seriousness of it. And the reason that she drove him to hospital herself was because the ambulance was going to take so long to arrive. So I'm afraid I don't know what the statistics are on availability of ambulances, but the 3 stories that I've just mentioned, including this awful story of the 95-year-old, suggests that we are in a real muddle over this. And the second point I would make is you can't magically fix this. You can't say that this must be down to bad management or whatever. If we don't invest in our public services, these sorts of stories will continue to happen.
Now, this happened in Christchurch High Street in Dorset at 2:30, and the lady's name is Winifred, and she was out shopping with her 92-year-old husband, and there are pictures of them in the papers, and her husband refused to leave her side and just sat there with her. And staff at the Mountain Warehouse, and I'm mentioning your name because you did an amazing thing, provided the couple with sleeping bags, and charity shops gave blankets and hot water bottles to keep them warm while they waited for the ambulance. Ben, I just really am starting to have an issue now with how we treat the elderly in this country in general. Obviously, we've got the winter fuel payments, but surely a 95-year-old woman should be priority. And I'm especially annoyed about this story because it happened in Dorset, where the Bibby Stockholm was. And the migrants on the Bibby Stockholm had access to doctors and dentists and NHS treatment just like that.
I mean, it is an extraordinary story, and I think it exemplifies, if exemplification is needed, our broken NHS. And, I mean, it's a brilliant parallel that you draw with the Bibby Stockholm, which cost the taxpayer £500 million, but was fitted out, to the nth degree. And we do know that illegal migrants are treated much better than many British citizens
It's Dorset. That's why I mentioned the Bibby Stockholm, because it's the Dorset area.
Yeah, exactly. So it is awful. People are dying waiting in A&E at the moment. The number of deaths as you're waiting to be treated has doubled since lockdowns ended. We know that waiting lists have doubled both in terms of time that you're waiting to be seen by the NHS as well as the number of people. I think there's somewhere between 7 and 8 million people now waiting for treatment. And probably if you were to expand the breadth of how you define treatment, it would be a bigger figure. So we're looking at a fundamental breakdown in the NHS. Ambulance drivers are particularly badly paid. I think the starting salary for an ambulance driver is about £22,000 per annum. The average wage is about £27,000, £28,000 per annum. And you think the median wage in the United Kingdom, which is already low compared to other first world countries, is £33,000 per annum. And so we've got to somehow fix the ecosystem that has been broken.
I'm sorry, I really
unfortunately, we've run
I
out.
wouldn't bring immigrants in. So we can't blame immigrants.
I wasn't blaming immigrants. I was blaming Dorset County Council, if anything, because they were the one that were making sure that the migrants on the Bibby Stockholm got treatment.
That's not why the ambulance...
But it's an allocation of resources, isn't it, Matt?
I don't think that was a direct conflict,
case,
really.
a spokesman for the South Western Ambulance Service said, "We are sorry that we were not able to provide a timely response to this patient. Any occasion where the care we provide falls below the high standards where our patients deserve and rightfully expect is unacceptable. Handover delays at emergency departments remain one of our biggest challenges. To ensure our ambulances are available to attend the next emergency call within the community, we need to be able to hand patients over within the 15-minute national target. We continue to work hard with our partners in the NHS and social care to do all we can to improve the service that patients receive." OK. Well, let's have some good news, shall we? It's time now for our biggest and greatest Great British giveaway this year, and your chance to win an amazing £50,000 in tax-free cash. Rachel Reeves can't get hold of it. It's the biggest cash prize we've ever given away, and it could all be yours. Here's the details you need of how to win it.
It's the biggest, greatest Great British giveaway so far, with your chance to win a spectacular £50,000 in tax-free cash. 2025 could be amazing, with plenty of treats, holidays and fun on the horizon. How would you enjoy that cash? £50,000 will make someone our biggest ever winner. For another chance to win £50,000 cash, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Yes, good luck indeed. What an amazing start that would be for the new year for you, eh? I'm Dawn Neeson, Mrs. GBNews. There's loads more coming up on today's show. Now, we've already been talking about migrants a little bit in that last story. But the news breaking this afternoon, more than 20,000 migrants have arrived in the UK after crossing the English Channel since Sir Keir Starmer became Prime Minister. All of that and much more to come. This is GB News, Britain's news channel. We'll see you soon.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Following the summer riots and the resurgence of far-right ideologies, the former Education Secretary told peers that reinforcing shared values is now more crucial than ever.
So we're asking this morning, should we teach British values or would it be a step backward?
Or how do you even start? To debate this now, we're joined by the Campaign for Real Education chairman, Chris McGovern, and political commentator Matthew Stadlen.
Well, I think these days, particularly in schools, it's quite fashionable to look at the negative sides of Britain's identity, particularly British history. Personally, I think I'm very proud of being British, and I think we need to be proud of our country like most other countries around the world are.
As Chris says, Matthew, lots of other countries do it. Heck, you only have to look at the United States, don't you, to see how sort of patriotic they are. Is there anything wrong in trying to instil a bit of that amongst our youth?
I'm just worried it sounds a little bit communist, Stephen, being told what it is to be British. I've got my own personal but very vague views of what British values might be: inclusivity, patience, being able to queue, decency, respect for democracy and the rule of law. But I mean, very many people will have different sets of values. Some people are racist. So are British values racist? You talked about the far right. I think we all know what the far right is. It's sort of violent, xenophobic racism. But if you have, say, I don't know, 3-4 million people in this country who might describe themselves as racist or far right, and they're British, or as British as you lot and as I am, does that mean those values get taught in schools? My worry is it's a little bit communist.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akua, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference.
It's fun. No, he didn't say that, though. I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is the nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Hello, welcome back to the weekend with me, Dawn Neeson. I hope you're having a lovely Sunday afternoon out there. Thank you for joining me. Really appreciate your company. Now, this can annoy you. More than 20,000 migrants have arrived in the UK after crossing the English Channel since Keir Starmer became Prime Minister. Sources have confirmed. This is a breaking story. In the early hours of this morning, it's understood 2 small boats. Actually, they're not that small anymore, are they? Let's be honest here. 2 boats were picked up in the Channel with dozens of migrants on board, taking the number of crossings since July to more than 20,000. Wowza. That's a big number there, Ben Habib, isn't it?
It's a massive number. And, you know, we were talking about the diversion of resources in the country and how we can deal with stuff. Well, housing an individual illegal migrant and providing all the care that we provide is about £50,000 per annum. So 20,000 coming in since Starmer became Prime Minister is another £1 billion a year that we're paying for. And I think we're paying now the thick end of £8 billion a year on housing and caring for illegal migrants. And that comes out of the foreign aid budget, by the way. You know, we talked about the foreign aid budget in an earlier segment in this programme, which is about £15 billion a year. But in order to care for the illegal migrants in this country, that budget is being diverted. And, I mean, and just to applaud Matt for one of the comments he made earlier, which was that, you know, foreign aid is deployed abroad. It can help settle problems abroad. And if we could settle those problems abroad, we could then hopefully reduce the flow of people coming here. And to care for one illegal migrant in the UK costs 10 or 15-fold what it would cost to feed and clothe them and so on in Syria, or for example. And so, I mean, we do need to urgently get a grip of the enforcement of our own borders, for the protection of the British people and for the saving our economy, the massive cost it's causing us, and in their own interests, because we could do a much better job spending money in their home countries.
So I know that you're no longer a Reform Party supporter. You would say you would never remember.
Well,
right?
I wouldn't say I'm not a supporter. I said I'm no longer associated with the party.
So maybe the right thing for you to do, your natural home is the Labour Party. Because no, I'm being serious.
Well, Starmer crossed the floor to shake Nigel's hand the other day, didn't he?
He did. No, but this is what you're advocating is precisely what Starmer, or part of what Starmer is trying to do. So he's obviously trying to smash the gangs, and I fully support that because these people are very bad people. That will fail. That doing very bad things. Very difficult to do. Obviously difficult to do. But that's what he's trying to do. He's also trying to pay some of the countries from which these people are coming in order to stop them from leaving those countries in the first place. That is precisely what you have just
But there's
advocated.
a slight problem with that, Matt. Slight difference between what I was saying and what he's doing. If you pay these countries money to stop sending us migrants, they make the association with sending migrants and the receipt of money. So they tend to send more migrants.
Well,
and
we fell into
this trap with France. With France, we were paying France nothing to start with. Then we started paying them something to hold the migrants. They thought, whoa, we got a few million quid from the UK. Then it went to £55 million a year, and now we've given them thick end of £1 billion. A thick end of £1 billion, and they're not stopping anything.
Ben Habib, we have clashed on social media, haven't we?
Have we clashed on social media?
About this very issue. Because I accused you of suggesting that you would be not happy, because no one would be happy, you hope, apart from psychopaths in these circumstances, but you would allow migrants or asylum seekers, there'll be some genuine asylum seekers, some economic migrants, to drown at sea.
So that is completely out of context. That was Julia Hartley-Brewer suggesting to me that if we did what I want to do, which is to stop people entering our territorial waters, they may, the people in the dinghy may produce a knife and stab their dinghy and end up in the drink. And I said, well, give them another boat. And she took the debate to the nth degree, where there was no option other than to put them on a British boat and bring them back to the UK. And what I should have said to her, instead of falling into the gotcha moment trap, was, actually, Julia, you put them on those boats and you send them back to France.
But we can't do that. This is what I'm trying to get at.
Of course you can do
that. Reform claims, as far as I know, Richard Tice claims that you could just send these people back to France. Do you seriously think for a single second that Rishi Sunak, who was staking so much of his credibility on stopping the boats, he told us, didn't he was going to stop the boats.
But he also had 4 other pledges, which didn't work.
Fine, and I was no supporter of Sunak, as I'm sure you know. But do you seriously think that if that was an available option, that Sunak wouldn't have, at the very least, attempted it? Do you seriously think that Starmer wouldn't be attempting it? It doesn't happen because we can't just turn up in French waters and say, here you go, folks.
No.
Unfortunately, gentlemen, we have to.
Oh, this is a good debate.
I know it's a very good debate, and I could listen to you two on this subject all day, but we do have to come to a break ourselves. Now, during Advent, as we count down to Christmas Day, we are hearing from church ministers across the country. Each day, they have a special message for you to celebrate the festive season. Here's our first one.
The GB News Advent Calendar, Day 1.
Hi, I'm Chris Tufnell. I'm the vicar of Uterbridge Parish Church near Sheffield. On Christmas Day 1997, I opened a present. It was a book, and on the cover was a picture of a train, a boy with a scar on his head, and a sign saying platform 9 3/4. It was, of course, Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, the first in the major series. But I remember thinking, it'll never catch on. And so it stayed on my shelf gathering dust for years. People told me I should read it, but I didn't. Until I realized this Harry Potter thing was getting really quite big now. And so I opened the cover, began to read, and sure enough, I was soon hooked. I think it's all too easy for us to do the same with the story of the person Christmas is all about, Jesus Christ. It's clear his story has caught on, it's shaped the Western world and given us the values we cherish so much at Christmas. Most people have heard something about him, but few have actually read the story for themselves. If that's you, might it be time that you did? Happy Christmas.
I really, really love that. I think it's a fantastic idea. It's about the real meaning of Christmas. Merry Christmas. You can't say it enough, can you? And you can see all of our special Advent messages as Christmas approaches by visiting gbnews.com/Advent. And indeed, Merry Christmas. I know it's a bit early. It's the first Sunday of Advent, so we're allowed to do it now. I'm Dawn Neeson. This is GB News, Britain's news channel. But don't go anywhere because there's much more coming up after this, including Christmas dinner.
Good morning, welcome to your latest GB News weather from the Met Office. So some sunny spells and blustery showers on the way for many of us today, but it is going to be turning colder as we head in towards the new working week. That's all thanks to this cold front that's sinking its way south and eastwards over the next few hours or so, bringing us northerly winds, particularly across the northern half of the UK into the start of Monday, but those spreading southwards through the rest of the week. Back to the rest of Sunday though. Plenty of showers around, particularly across western areas. These likely to turn heavy across parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland. But the further south and further east you are, there should be some sunshine as we head through the afternoon. And it will still be feeling mild for the time of year. Temperatures in the south perhaps around 15 or 16 degrees. And even across parts of Scotland, we could see 12 or 13 degrees. So well above average for the time of year. Through the rest of Sunday evening, those showers do continue. This band of showers across parts of Scotland could turn particularly heavy as we go through into this evening. And there'll be plenty of showers pushing in across northern and western areas into this evening as well. Across Northern Ireland, a pretty similar picture. Plenty of showers in the west, but staying a little bit drier for a time further east. Across parts of Wales, southwest England, those blustery showers pushing up on that southwesterly breeze. But eastern parts of England, perhaps just staying that little bit drier in towards this evening. Overnight, those showers continue to push their way eastwards, so almost anywhere seeing a bit of wet weather into the early hours of Monday morning. But across parts of Scotland, we'll see those showers starting to turn increasingly to sleet and snow, particularly over any high ground as we go into the start of Monday. And it'll be a chillier night for most of us, perhaps some frost across parts of Scotland, and even further south, temperatures dropping to around 6 or 7 degrees quite widely. Into the start of Monday morning, this band of showers pushes its way southwards across the country, but the further west you are, there should be plenty of sunny spells as we head towards the afternoon. But those sleet and snow showers do continue across the northern parts of Scotland, so that should lead to us feeling a little bit chillier than we've seen recently. Those northerly winds bringing us cooler temperatures, around 10 or 11 in the south and around 4 or 5 in the north.
Go to gbnews.com/shop now and take advantage of our biggest ever Black Friday sale with 25% off all items across our store and free shipping on orders worth £60 or more. There's never been a better time to grab something for the GB News fan in your life. From our signature clothing to drinkware, gifts, accessories and much, much more, you'll find the perfect present this festive season. Use the code BLACKFRIDAY25 on checkout at gbnews.com/shop for our best ever Black Friday deals.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there short and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon. The top stories from the GB newsroom. Well, some MPs who backed the assisted dying bill have indicated they could consider changing their mind along the process amid concerns over palliative care provision and safeguarding. MPs will be able to suggest amendments to the legislation when it moves into the next stage, the parliamentary step, that is the committee stage. Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster, Pat McFadden, told GB News this morning there's still a long way to go.
Now that Parliament's voted on that on Friday, it will go into committee. It will be considered in much more detail now, like every other piece of legislation, and it should be because it's such a serious issue. And the House of Commons will have to vote on it again in a few months' time. So this bill, this big and serious measure, will be properly and fully considered clause by clause now, as it should be. And even though we had the vote on Friday, I still think there's probably a long way to go before this becomes law.
And Gregg Wallace has responded to the mounting allegations against him in a defiant video that he posted online this morning, saying the accusations come from middle-class women of a certain age. Wallace, who stepped back from presenting the BBC cooking show MasterChef, after accusations he made sexual comments towards staff and celebrity guests on a range of programmes over 17 years, says he worked with more than 4,000 contestants over the years of all different ages, background and walks of life. Well, now TV presenter Kirsty Allsop has accused Mr Wallace of making inappropriate comments to her when they worked together. Posting on X today, she said within 1 hour of meeting him, he told me of a sex act he and his partner at the time enjoyed. She then goes on to say in that post that it was totally unprofessional. Mr Wallace and his lawyers have strongly denied all of the accusations made. And those are the latest GB News headlines for now. More news in half an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thank you very much, Tatiana. Now, there's plenty more coming up on today's show, including Christmas dinner. But before I tell you what we've got lined up, Nana Akua show is on at 3 o'clock, and she joins us now. Nana, your show is always a Christmas cracker. See what I did there? What have you got coming up this time?
Very good, Dawn. The old ones are the best. Literally. But listen, coming up on my show, hopefully, fingers crossed, the father of Elon Musk, Errol Musk, will be on discussing the influence that Elon may well have on British politics and whether or not we may well, whether this is a good thing for people like Elon to be into kind of getting involved in British politics, which personally I'm quite happy about it because he's after what I'm after. And looking at the state of what's happening with Liz Kendall, she's, of course, the energy minister who turned around and decided that winter fuel allowance should be scrapped for pensioners whilst residing in a £4 million abode in Notting Hill and also taking an allowance, a fuel allowance or expenses for a second home that she resides in when she goes to a constituency. So the question I'm going to be asking is, should MPs' expenses be means tested, just like everybody else? Should they be means tested for their expenses? Because Nigel Farage turned down his fuel allowance. He said, I can afford it, but maybe they should be doing a bit of that as well. So that is coming up in my show.
Great point. That's going to be a good one. Thank you very much, Nana. Nana is on at 3 o'clock straight after this. Now, is the Christmas roast stuffed? Basically, 1 in 5 UK adults would rather have a curry over the Yuletide roast, with the traditional Christmas dinner also being snubbed by choices like mushy peas, chips and mac and cheese. People, what are you doing out there? OK, we have still Matthew and Ben with me. Matthew, I'm going to come to you on this one. It's a fairly safe topic for you both, I think. What are you having on Christmas Day for lunch?
So, as I said earlier, our main meal is Christmas Eve.
Yes, because...
traditionally,
yes, right.
although actually on my mother's side, it's Christmas Day. So we're lucky we have 2 main meals.
You have 2?
On the
You're
Christmas
just
Eve, Christmas Eve is duck and goose. And I've hosted 2 of these events with 40 guests because our family's a big family. This year it might be 50. I'm not hosting.
50?
Yeah, and when I did it, we did 8 ducks and 4 geese, and the geese are big. On Christmas Day, I will be cooking whatever my mum wants.
Tells you to cook.
Exactly. But it's the second Christmas without my dad, so...
Oh...
Those are
that's
difficult
hard.
times, aren't they?
No, that's
particularly
hard.
for my mum.
Yeah, no, but you've got good memories of your dad at Christmas. That's a lovely thing to do. Ben, are you going to be having mac and cheese?
No, I mean, no. We're fortunate enough to be able to have turkey every Christmas, so it will be turkey, and probably for the next 2 weeks after that.
Is it a little bit... This is controversial, isn't it?
Oh,
a little bit bland, turkey?
Turkey?
Yeah.
Well, it's bland. It is bland. It's blander than chicken, actually.
Yes.
But if you have it with all the condiments that come with it, the stuffing's my favourite bit. Mm-hmm. And then the red currant jelly and all the, is it red currant jelly? No, it's not. It's something red and sweet. Red currant jelly goes with lamb.
Cranberry sauce?
Cranberry sauce, that's the one. Cranberry sauce.
Thank you. I must admit, I mean, this is a really good point, actually. This is from Jean. Jean says, maybe if people knew how to cook or could be bothered to put their phone down, then they wouldn't have to have a takeaway. It's a good point. We're all getting a bit lazy in the kitchen, aren't we? I mean, I am the world's worst, by the way.
Isn't it fascinating that Christmas, for so many of us, holds such powerful sway?
Yeah.
So even if you leave the religious element out of it, and I'm singing in our annual Advent Carol concert on Tuesday, which is always a really special time of the year, gets the whole Christmas season started, it just preoccupies us. What are you doing for Christmas? Where are you going to be?
Yeah.
Who's coming? What are you cooking? Months sometimes in advance.
I love it.
I love it. I love it, and I think it's part of our culture, and I hope we never turn our backs on it. It all makes my mind boggle when I get cards at this time of year saying, season's greetings.
They do that more in America, though.
No, but we get them here, season's greetings. No, it's not a season. I'm not being greeted for winter. Send your greetings for Christmas.
Yes.
It's a Christian festival. Let's just get on board with it.
OK, well, that's why I like our Advent calendar, because it says Merry Christmas, and that's what we're going to be saying.
It's because we have Happy Hanukkah, don't we? And we have all sorts of other religious festivals that we celebrate and call it by their name. Can we please not just celebrate Christmas?
Yeah, absolutely. Merry Christmas. Right, I'm Dawn Neeson with GBNews, and there's loads more coming up on today's show, so don't you dare go anywhere. We'll see you very soon.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and this is GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
What about train Wi-Fi? The Times. It's so funny the Times did this story because I was on the train yesterday trying to do some work and connecting to the Wi-Fi, and it happens all the time. It just doesn't work. It's pathetic. And then I opened the Times and they've done a massive investigation. Loads of different rail routes from north to south.
Was that the James Bond thing, right?
Yes. Yeah. What's
I think, well, that passenger got through, or almost got through, one episode one James Bond movie in 8 hours.
But you know, it's interesting. We call it train Wi-Fi, but it isn't. It's just really a SIM card on a train, really. So if your own phone's not going to get signal, why would we assume that the train's going to have signal? It just doesn't work like that. Unless you're in Japan or South Korea, whose infrastructure is infinitely better than ours, you're just not going to get signal. You have to download those films way before you get on
There is technology that can help with that. You know, there really is. If they found ways to put it underground, they can get it on ground and get you going. I definitely think, you know, with the price that we're paying for these tickets, they can get the Wi-Fi going. There is technology.
That's why it's so frustrating, isn't
Call
it?
Elon, get a Starlink, let's go.
If you're a passenger paying hundreds of pounds for a season ticket or whatever you call it, and you know, commute to work every single day, and you're paying all this money, and you can't.
So expensive. You'd expect Wi-Fi at the basic. Yeah, exactly.
But it happens with phone signal as well. I'll be walking down London in Park Lane or somewhere else, or down on the south coast. I just don't have phone signal, and I think to myself, what on earth is going on?
Doesn't it feel like 5G's made it worse, though?
Yeah.
Because I feel like 4G, that didn't happen so much, but 5G just feels like...
Yeah, and then I always get this little E in the top corner of my phone, and I don't get any signal. I think it's got worse over the past couple of years. Yeah, especially with 5G. I agree with that.
GB News, the People's Channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Hello, welcome back to the weekend with me, Dawn Neeson. Now, Gloria De Piero is back with an incredible story. Labour MP for Bassetlaw even opens up about how being in the public eye can affect every aspect of your life, as her middle daughter was the victim of sexual assault and couldn't talk to her parents about it. And that has encouraged her to pursue a legacy in Parliament to tackle violence against women and girls. This interview contains discussion around sexual assault and suicidal thoughts that some viewers may find upsetting.
So, Jo White, new MP for Bassetlaw, you're elected to Parliament in July, aged 60. Would have been commonplace, you know, decades gone past, but it feels quite unusual now. Does it feel unusual to you?
Certainly. I think there's about 40 women over the age of 40. Six over the age of 60. So
is that across?
No, within Labour
Party,
and that's just new. I haven't looked at whoever's there. Certainly, I feel that the way people are looking at the new parliamentarians, they're always talking about the young men.
Yeah.
So I feel invisible in those terms. For example, I went to an event at Labour Party conference, and I was right at the front, and I was very proud to be there. But all they kept talking about was the new young blood, and they kept getting the young men up to speak on the platform. So, yes, there is a sense of invisibility. I'm very proud to be here. I never expected to be here. But yes, it's an uphill battle that people like me have a background, we've had experience. We've got council leaders, we've got business leaders, we've got head teachers who are in Parliament. We have something to offer. So, yeah, there has to be a bit of a change, I think.
Couldn't agree more. Now, politics. It has become increasingly toxic. We've had the murder of Joe Cox, Sir David Amess. Awful, awful, awful things that we hope will never, ever happen again. Now, you were a local councillor before becoming an MP. And I read that someone sent you a dead bird in the post. That's vile. All I hope is that that is the only thing that has happened to you. That's been that you're not being subject to abuse in any other way.
Well, that was the start, to be honest. I wasn't expecting it. I came home after my very first council meeting. There's a package. I thought, what's that? It's smelly. Opened it, and I didn't know what it was. And I immediately called my husband and other councillors. And my husband called the police. They called the bomb squad. And it turned out to be a dead bird. And fortunately, I recognised the handwriting. And it's actually a Labour Party colleague who'd sent me it.
Oh, gosh.
So
what happened to them?
They had a harassment order. They went to court. Had to pay a £100 fine. I never got the money. But yes, it became a big, big story. Fortunately, I never saw him again. But then my husband was a previous Labour MP where I am in Bassetlaw. The work he led the way on Brexit. He's a Brexiteer? Yes, absolutely, a strong Brexiteer. And also he took the fight on anti-Semitism, which meant he became a target. But as his wife, I also became a target. I had death threats, I had rape threats, including my daughters also had rape threats.
How were these? How? By email? By letter?
By letter, by phone call.
Phone call?
Yes. So phoning through to my husband's staff, the messages came through. They also had horrific messages as well.
His staff?
Yes. So it's an awful time. I found it a very, very difficult time. So when he stood down, it's a period of relief where I healed. And to be honest, going through that has strengthened me as a woman. I feel far more resilient. And I think it's given me the strength to be a member of Parliament because, to be honest, I haven't had to deal with that just yet. But I know that I've got the inner strength to face it. I don't feel intimidated. If something horrific comes through, I know exactly what to do to deal with it. But in the past, it knocked me sideways. The fact that I had to deal with a rape threat to my daughters is something that no other mother would ever have to contemplate. And another one is a Labour Party member who did it. He in Scotland.
A random Labour Party member in Scotland?
Yes, sent a descriptive email about how he wanted to rape me. And they tracked him down to his house. But because there were 4 people in the house, they couldn't identify which person was on the computer at that particular point in time. They had a good idea, but yes, it's something that I've had to live with as a parliamentarian. It's something that, because I've been through it, if any parliamentarian comes to me and says, this is what I'm facing, I feel that I want to put my arms around them and help them through that. And that's what I can offer as an MP. And perhaps as an older MP, it's a skill set I have. So
if there was sort of one word of advice that you would, or a short sentence perhaps, what is it?
Stay strong. Stay strong. Yes, there are people here that can help you through this.
Now, last month you asked a question in the House of Commons. You said that one of your daughters had been sexually assaulted when she was of school age. That is beyond awful for a family to go through. And we should say that we have consent. Your daughter knows that we will be talking about this. So I just have a very broad question. Can you tell me as much as you and your daughter feel comfortable with telling me about that? The effect on your family, we don't need to go into details, just what you are comfortable with.
I describe this as the worst time in my life. My daughter, she was sexually assaulted whilst out with friends. And she came home and didn't tell me or my husband anything about it. The reason being because her husband was my husband was a member of Parliament at the time, and she didn't want us have to deal with the repercussions of that. So she was protecting us, and she didn't tell us what had happened to her. And she went for a year without telling us, and One day, the school nurse phoned me and said, "You need to talk to your daughter. There's something she needs to tell you." Oh, what the hell's going on? What's this about? And then she was rushed to hospital, and it's the consequences of this whole year of having to deal with this thing very, very privately. And I knew I had to talk to her about something. I didn't know what. I could see that her life was collapsing around her. And I did something a mother shouldn't do. I went through her bedroom and I found her diary. And that's how I found out what had happened to her. So I knew I had to talk to her about what I'd read in the diary. And she confirmed it had happened. And I had to ask her permission to talk to my husband about it. And that was really, really hard. And people who know my husband, John, he's very robust. He will say what he thinks, quick to react. This is the only time I've seen him be silent. And he stood and looked out the window for quite a long time. And our focus then was on how can we support my daughter. I've never been told, she's never told me or my husband the names of the two boys who did it. And she knows why. I know what my husband would do if he did. I know that she got, when it happened, her phone was out of range. So she got an owner of a shop to ring her friend's mother to come and collect her. She didn't phone me. And so it's only in later life that she's told me the details, but it took her more than 10 years to recover. There was times when she was suicidal. I used to have to go and live with her to help get her out of bed in the morning to go do her job. She had to have a lot of therapy. She had an eating disorder for quite a long time. And the therapy she got in the end actually saw her through it. But I know that she can never live alone. She's always got to have somebody with her. So I can never forgive those people, those poor boys, what they did to her. I can never, ever. And I know what I'd do and what I'd say if I saw them. And I know what my husband would do if he saw them. But they destroyed her life. And I can never forgive that, ever, ever. And the fact that she felt she couldn't tell me because the position my husband was in makes it even worse.
I'm so sorry that your family had to go through that and one of your daughters had to go through that. You are in Parliament now, and this is a subject you have personal, tragic, angry feelings about violence against women and girls. Yeah. What do we do about it as a country? What do you want to do about it as a Member of Parliament now?
Well, this is my opportunity to actually tackle these issues head on. I'm concerned about the Andrew Tates of this world who encourage misogyny, particularly in young boys, and yet many young girls accept that language. So I want our curriculum to change so that teachers can talk to this from children from a very young age to teenagers, where they feel comfortable about challenging language that belittles women, treats women as girls as sexual objects, and so that people have the strength to challenge it and change behaviours. But also this month is White Ribbon Week, where men take responsibility to tackle violence against women. And I will be speaking in a debate on Friday, immediately after the assisted dying bill. I'll be up there speaking in a debate to promote the issue. There's a big campaign on Ask Angela, when women go into a pub and they feel particularly challenged. There's somebody sitting next to them who's coming onto them and they feel uncomfortable. If you go to the bartenders and ask for Angela, they can help you or help you get out of that situation. So I want to promote schemes like that so women feel safe where they are. So that, for me, will hopefully be my legacy when I finish being an MP.
What a legacy. What a noble legacy that is. Absolute pleasure to listen to you and to be with you today. thank you and thank your daughter too for enabling us to raise awareness and hopefully get some change. Joe White and Paper Bassett-Lau, thank you.
OK, well, that was quite a hard listen, wasn't it? But there are, there are many, many places you can get help if you have been affected by any of the instances addressed in that interview with Gloria there. OK, well, we're coming to the end of the show, so I just want to say a huge thank you to all of you out there for joining us on this very festive Sunday. We've got all the decorations up in the studio now, and we have our Christmas Advent calendar going online as well, and that'll be going up until the Christmas day. And we are wishing you a Merry Christmas. As Ben Habib, my wonderful panellist, said earlier on, it's not season's greetings, it's Merry Christmas. And we are allowed to say that to one another, and we're going to carry on saying it on GB News. So thank you very much for joining me, and a huge thank you to my wonderful panel, Matthew Stadlen and Ben Habib, who are keeping their Santa hats. Yay! I'm very pleased. They did both audition to be Santa earlier on, and you can catch up on that on the website, and I'm sure we'll put it out on social media. One of them looked very, very cute. The other one, maybe not so cute. But in any case, it's all on the website. Please do have a look. Well, I'm Dawn Neeson. This has been GB News The Weekend. And thanks for joining me. Hope you're having a lovely weekend out there. But don't go too far. We've got a cracking afternoon and evening of entertainment for you. Nana is up with a very, very feisty show. And after that, we have got... Oh, I'm not quite sure. There's loads to do after that. But thank you for joining me. Have a lovely rest of your weekend. But we need to talk about the weather, don't we? We always do. We're British. Here it is with Ellie. See you soon.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good afternoon. Welcome to your latest GB News weather from the Met Office. So plenty of blustery showers continuing through the rest of today, but we should see some clear spells overnight, and with some northerly winds on the way, it will be turning colder as we head in towards the new working week. This area of low pressure up to the north of the UK pushes away towards Scandinavia, leaving us northerly winds across all of the UK as we head through Monday. But back to Sunday evening, plenty of showers around. This band of showers across central areas pushes its way eastwards, turning particularly heavy over any high ground. But across southern areas, there should be some clear spells around between those showers, but it will still be quite a mild night compared to what we've seen recently. Temperatures in the south around 6, 7, perhaps 8 degrees, although with some northerly winds across parts of Scotland turning chillier here, perhaps a frost to start the day in places. For northern areas, it will be quite a cloudy start to the day on Monday. Across parts of Scotland, those showers that we see overnight turning increasingly to sleet and snow, particularly over the hills, so definitely feeling a bit of a chillier start here. Across Northern Ireland, we will still see some showers around through the morning, but these likely to be falling as rain. The further south you are, perhaps some sunshine to start the day. Across northern parts of England,